Modern life puts enormous pressure on us to simply be happy. We chase the right aesthetic, the right partner, or the right mindset, treating joy like a prize we can catch and hold on to, only to watch it slip right through our fingers. Even psychologists can't agree on a single definition for a well-lived life. Some argue it's defined by daily enjoyment, while others insist it requires a deep sense of belonging or a grand purpose. Because of this ambiguity, our culture defaults to treating happiness as a passive state. We assume it is something we receive, a status granted to us once our external conditions are finally perfect. But treating joy as a destination you arrive at guarantees you stay exactly where you are. Waiting for the perfect conditions is a reliable path toward remaining stagnant and miserable. When you look closely at people who are developed and genuinely content, a single shared trait emerges. It has nothing to do with avoiding stress or seeking pleasure. Real contentment requires an active, often uncomfortable confrontation with yourself. It asks you to step out of your comfort zone and acknowledge the things you'd rather ignore. You have to stop protecting your ego and start dismantling it. You break down the polished exterior to get to the complicated, shifting reality underneath. The decision to drop the act marks the true beginning of the good life. We all use tricks of self-deception to protect our self-esteem from reality. These are automatic maneuvers designed to keep us feeling safe. When we fail, our brains immediately spin a story. We cast ourselves as either the misunderstood hero or the unfortunate victim, insulating our feelings from the weight of our own mistakes. Think of it as a processing error. Negative feedback hits this cognitive filter and gets scrambled into a comforting fiction, feeding an artificial sense of self-worth. While this loop feels secure, it shuts down our ability to process the world. We stop adapting to new information because we refuse to acknowledge that we need to change. The mental defenses we use to protect our feelings become the exact mechanism that keeps us trapped and unhappy. Escaping that cage requires a very difficult and terrifying first step: the deliberate abandonment of all your protective hero narratives. Diving into the choppy waters of self-knowledge means looking at the facts without the filter. It's the willingness to admit you were wrong in an argument or that your opinions were misguided, even when it stings. The moment you recognize your own self-deception, your brain pushes back. There is intense emotional friction as your curated identity is threatened by raw, unedited reality. Pushing through that fear requires a commitment to the truth. You have to decide that a harsh reality is more valuable than a comfortable fiction. Real personal growth is destructive. It requires dismantling your old, curated identity so you can build one that actually functions in the real world. Once you drop your defenses, your behavior changes. The exhausting drive to score points or prove yourself against others simply disappears. Social interactions shift. You no longer feel the need to appear cleverer than your peers. Instead, you become interested in what they actually have to say. Obstacles shift from threats into opportunities. Rather than bouncing off a problem to protect your ego, you analyze its dimensions and integrate that information into your path forward. This shift reclaims the cognitive energy wasted on self-defense. Because your brain isn't filtering for a comforting story, it can finally see the patterns required to solve the problem. By removing the filter of the ego, you gain the mental agility to see new perspectives and navigate obstacles that used to stop you cold. This process creates what psychologists call a harmonious nonconformist. This is someone who functions within a culture but is no longer bound by its expectations. They strike a careful balance. They assert their own autonomy and do what is right for them, but they do it in a way that remains socially constructive and considers the needs of others. At the same time, they possess the resilience to refuse to be trampled. They don't bend to the demands of others because their self-worth isn't tied to external approval. Radical self-honesty creates unbreakable personal boundaries that don't rely on hostility or aggression to survive. This leads to a total reversal of perspective. Discovering that you were entirely wrong or misguided is no longer a painful defeat. It is a pivotal victory. There is a unique wonderment in this kind of brutal self-learning. You take delight in catching yourself in a lie, because it means you've just gained a clearer view of who you are. It's the core paradox of growth. To experience this joy, you must be willing to continuously leave your old self behind. Stop trying to passively find happiness. Commit instead to the relentless, joyful process of dismantling your ego to learn who you actually are.